How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys are ready because set champs for Archazia's Island is kicking off starting this first weekend of May and running throughout the month. I just wanted to hop back on and show you guys what you could kind of expect to see when going into your set champs. Now, honestly, the best way to get a feel for what kind of decks you're going to see is just by actually going out and competing in locals, seeing what the players around you are playing, while also just keeping an open ear to what kind of decks are rising in the more competitive formats. Now, speaking of the more competitive formats, there was just a 5K tournament where Zan Syed once again broke the meta, and he whipped out a first place Jafar Whole New World deck, utilizing a pretty old item in the lamp to do some pretty crazy things against all those Burple players, and ended up getting first place by defeating none other than his world's competitor, Mo Shamlin. And what does that mean for the rest of us? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it means a lot of people are going to be picking up this deck with very limited practice and bringing it out to set champs, seeing if they can replicate that success. Now, this deck is amazing. It's more or less a 1 or 2 turn win type of deck if they get that Jafar and Whole New World. That's 7 lore just right there. And then they can use things like the lamp and your genie to bounce your Jafar, keep them safe. They can bounce your characters so that you can't challenge things like the Jafar based on what you're playing. Very versatile, very cool to see the lamp getting used. And before this tournament, a lot of people had dropped their item banishing cards after the Hiram and Fortisphere bans. But if this gets very popular, you might see people start adding in those Clarabelles, those Benjas, back into their decks just to deal with the potential of seeing this. Would I personally run this? I would say this weekend, probably. I do have 2 tournaments I'm going to, one Saturday, one Sunday. And if I do well enough in the first one, and I want to just have fun in my second one, I might bring this just to see how I can do with this deck. This deck definitely is going to take some time to master. I'm sure Zan is going to go all over it in his Metafy and in his podcast. So if you don't see it in the first weekend, I would not be surprised if you start seeing this for the rest of the month. So at the very least, you need to know how to play against it, and you need to pack some Jafar removal with whatever you're playing. All right, and then next up, another deck that I think is doing very well in the current meta. This one is from Tower Man Purple. It is a diggy diggy hole called Tower Defense here on this list. For set 7, they do add in the penny, giving your Smee not only resist 1, but also gets to heal 2 damage off of him, giving him a lot more life, making it really hard for opposing characters to challenge into your characters or sing those damaging songs into you and remove something. It's also using the new Jafar card, which is when you play this character, you can give one of your characters challenger +2. This card on 3 is great to give to like your Daisy Duck. Give it the ability to trade into something and take something out while also putting hopefully 3 damage onto it. And then you can drop that Rapunzel on turn number 4. Get all those free cards. This Jafar works really well because a lot of these characters do only have 1 or 2 strength in this deck. So getting like a mini Merlin Crab effect is pretty good with these ink colors. And then besides the mine, it's also running Rapunzel's Tower. The tower giving 3 willpower to your characters is kind of crazy. It makes getting rid of those daisies, the Smees, very, very hard. And this is a great deck to run into a meta that doesn't have a lot of Ruby into it, because if you're going to be removing things based purely on willpower, those Rapunzel's Towers are going to be very annoying for you. All right, and then of course we can't forget about DKP's list, the red-blue, now without Hiram after the ban. This is his pretty standard list where he is just focusing on getting those sharks out as early as possible, getting as many actions chained, while also having the flexibility of having your Goofy and your Maui to kind of cancel out any of those early game locations or singers that might be turned and not expecting it. And then once you get to your high enough ink total, you're using your Tamatoa to recycle your popsicles, and you're using Sisu and Be Prepared to kind of play a Protect the Manor playstyle, where you get the double manners down and then you just Sisu, you Be Prep, maybe then you play a Maui Shark and you get a couple actions to close out the game. Now, personally, in my locals, this type of deck has fallen off in favor. A lot of people are playing Steel, but everyone always says that Ruby Sapphire is the most powerful when no one else is playing it, because if you're not teching against this and you're not expecting this, you're going to be in for a rough time facing this. And you could be really lucky if you're one of the only players playing it at your event. Now, another deck that has been gaining a lot of popularity is JDRR's variation of Blurple. It is the no 1-drops Blurple, focusing just on the ramp, maybe getting your Bell out turn 1 with a Popsicle, and then utilizing cards like the Bell to instantly take out the opposing targets while keeping your characters nice and healthy, removing the damage from them. And then late game, you're using your Hades, your Gaston to control the board while you get free lore with Merlin, and you quest really, really fast with your Genie and your Bells. I've also seen variations of this use the Big Elsa from set number 1, being able to lock down 2 questers that potentially could win the game and just lock them down for another turn, giving you enough time to answer with your Hades or with another smaller Elsa. This is a very, very good deck in the current meta, but it does have one weakness, and that's going to be traditional Steelsong, which we'll take a look at in a second. Other than that, this deck kind of is just doing its own thing, getting up to an insane ink total, drawing pretty much their entire deck throughout the course of the game, and then just having more tools available to win the board state and then quest out for the win. And then speaking of Steelsong, this is my variation of Kurt Spice's Steelsong. I just swapped out the Gastons for the Auroras. Like I said, I don't face a lot of Ruby where I typically play, so Aurora gets a little bit more value. Being able to either quest or sing something or challenge into something and get damage onto her, and then Rapunzel and ready the Aurora is really, really good. Also, you'll see this list does use the Queen turn 2 shift line. On the play, this can be really, really good to mess with your opponent's mulligan. In this version, I did drop from 4 Whole New Worlds to 3, just because I don't know about you guys, but I always brick when I have 4 Whole New Worlds. I end up with 2 in hand, and then I'll draw the other 2 either before I can play my Whole New World or in my Whole New World. And now I've got no more card draw for the rest of the game unless I hit a Rapunzel. So I just grabbed a Grab Your Sword. But I think the real star of this deck is the Aerial Sonic Warrior. Getting her out on turn 4 and then just having the ability to sing all your songs and just ping every single thing on the other side of the field that doesn't have a ward is really strong. And it can allow you to just keep controlling the board state. Even if you don't have your damaging songs in your hand, maybe you have like your Whole New World, you can still use that aerial to take something out and then draw into those damaging songs. So then you can do a damaging song on one target and then you can ping the other one with aerial if you have enough ink for it. Personally, one of my favorite combos to use in the deck. And I think going into your set champs, Steelsong is very, very popular. If you go look at the results for the creator set champs hosted by Ravensburger, most of the players that got into the top 8 are on Steelsong. Same thing with the 5K. There's a lot of Steelsong or Amber Steel players, whether that be Diggy Hole or Steelsong. It just has a lot of answers, and without Ruby being very popular, there's not a lot of fear of getting board wiped, which makes going wide with this type of deck so much easier and so much rewarding. All right, and then last up, the other type of deck that you're most likely to face in your set champs is going to be Emerald Steel Discard. You could also face Emerald Amethyst Discard, although I think there's a little bit too much anti-Diablo built into the meta right now to make like the discard version of that work. The tempo version still is really good. It did literally just get second place in that Lucky Llama 5K, but the more traditional Emerald Steel Discard, this is going to utilize your Diablo Shift line, your Ursula Deceiver of All, and then use things like Sudden Chill, the We Don't Talk About Bruno, and the Lucifer to really empty your hand. This version here does have the Pete Space Pirate, which is a great new addition for this deck. It does give your Smee a resist because he's also a pirate, but more importantly, it prevents Steelsong players from being able to sing things against you, which can make it really hard for them to answer your board state. And then this one by Tyler Miller from the Shadow Series 1K did also include some Tinkerbell just for a little spread damage, most likely to try and hit some of those ward targets. And then once you get her online, if she's able to take something out with a challenge, you get that bonus effect of dealing 2 extra damage. This is a really good deck. The only problem that I've traditionally had with this deck is it can be very, very slow to actually accumulate that lore. You have to win the early game and go wide before you're able to really start questing with this deck. And there's a lot of decks that are a lot lower to the ground that can get just a little bit too far ahead of you, unless you can get something really substantial out in the early game, like the Pete Space Pirate, or I've also seen people use like the Muses to bounce Lucifers just to keep that discard going over and over again. So don't be surprised if you see something like this in your set champs as well. So that leaves us the question, which one of these am I going to be playing for set champs? And the answer, as always, is none of them. I don't think I've ever played one of those like meta decks into a set champs. I'm going to give all credit to Harlan because he's the one that I saw post this deck first, and I just took it and kind of tweaked it a little bit. This is what he's referring to, Blueyhole, like a blue diggy hole. And what I love about this deck is it's very low to the ground. It plays almost like a aggro deck, the way that you get these early game characters out on the board, but you have the benefit of the ward with the Alice, with the Cogsworth, and the Lady Cluck. A lot of those decks that we just showed in the meta, besides probably the Jafar deck that doesn't care about challenging, are going to have a hard time getting over Lady Cluck with resist from the Cogsworth. All the while, we're going to be taking things out with our Seven Doors Mine and getting the free lore with our manners. You'll see we have a Baymax for the turn 5 play, getting that onto our Mr. Smee, healing him, getting that extra lore. We've also got the Alice to protect things like the Beast from getting damaged before we're able to get that card draw. This deck is just a very solid, low to the ground threat. And if you're not worried about playing into a DKP Sisu list or a Sailor Sisu list, you're going to find a lot of these games you're going to get to a pretty wide board. And as long as you have your Cogsworth and your Lady Cluck on the board, you're going to have a lot of freedom to kill things with your Robin Hood, move your dwarves to the mines back and forth, get a lot of easy quests in. Alice is going to have a lot more utility, being able to quest and keep something else safe with the board. I've been playtesting this one a lot recently, and I can't speak highly enough of this list. What do you guys think? And then, like I said, because I play against so much steel, it just makes a lot more sense. Put that Cogsworth in, make it really hard for them to remove my characters, and then we just follow the same game plan as Diggy Hole. Use the dock to refill our hand, and then if we need to, we can throw a damage onto Beast, make him a 7 strength attacker to take out locations. And yeah, overall just a really great list. It's very fun to play, and I can't thank Harlan enough for posting this, just giving the inspiration for this list. I'm really excited to see how my local players react to this type of deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or just stop by and say hi. I know it's been a while since I've posted here on the channel. Been a little bit busy, but playing Lorcana every single week, going to locals a lot. I think I've played more in-person Lorcana over the past 2 months and less virtual Lorcana, which is always really fun. Maybe we'll be able to start recording that in the given future. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be getting back onto a pretty normal schedule for posting videos again. Thank you guys for bearing with me as I took a little break. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.